Hello, hello, everyone. It is so good to be with you here. I am very excited to talk to you about what I'm talking with you about today. It's been on my mind for a while because I have a little bit of a confession to make. Now, first, I do want to admit I made an exceptionally effective coaching program. It is a very well designed curriculum. The seeds for this coaching program were planted 20 years ago when I was working as a psychiatrist, and I was coaching people to learn how to navigate their brain chemistry better, to put it short, to do a lot better self-care, teaching all of my clients breath-focused relaxation, talking about exercise, sleep hygiene, avoiding caffeine if you're anxious, avoiding alcohol, things like that. And so I have a long history in the mental health field, psychology, teaching in general, change management, as well as theology and spirituality. So this program is super rich and very well developed. But the core reasons for its effectiveness might not have as much to do with me or as much to do with the curriculum as I like to think, because there is indeed a secret sauce in this group. And that secret sauce I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes. But first, I want to tell you really what we focus on, what mindful dating is about. And then I'm going to tell you about the secret sauce and why the secret sauce really matters. And just my coaching and just the curriculum alone wouldn't be enough to get the same kinds of outcomes. And then I'm going to talk with you tiny little bit about outcomes. I have another video that I recorded about a month ago about success stories from inside my mindful dating program. If you are curious about that, please reach out and I will put you in touch with that podcast. So the first thing is, what are we working on inside the Mindful Dating Intensive? The whole goal is to become a self-led dater. And what that means is to date from a place of core self-energy. In the internal family systems world, that's a model of the mind. The core self is described by 8 C words: calm, clear, compassionate, courageous, so forth and so on. And that all sounds great. To be calm, clear, compassionate, courageous, curious, creative. Oh, that sounds awesome. But we all know that's not how we show up on dates, especially not on first dates and not consistently. We all know that in the beginning, we want to put our best foot forward. We know that on the first date, we can get a little bit nervous. Sometimes if you've had your heart broken a few times, as many people have, you go into dates a little bit armored up. You have a little bit of a defensive wall. You don't really want people to come too close to you. You kind of push people away a little bit. I don't know if this is ringing a bell for anybody. For other people, they're totally led by people-pleasing parts, and they go along with things that they really don't agree with. They go along with things that they actually disagree with, things they hate. They'll eat sushi, but they hate it. They agree to whatever political opinion or social commentary the person across the table is saying. And sometimes you feel like you just have to do that. You go along to get along, and then you never want to see that person again. And in other cases, you may act like you're cooler and more confident than you are, but inside you know you're not. Inside you're hearing all the chatter of your dragons, and you know you're faking it. You totally know. You know you're just faking it. And the problem is when you're dating from those parts that are people-pleasing parts, or you're really armored up, or even if you're like a little bit graspy or needy on first dates, that's not really going to end up well for you. That's not going to end up in a great relationship. You're not going to find a person who loves and cares about who you are when you're at your best and who you are at your most every day. Which is why people often say they need to get to know someone for 6 months or a year before they really know if it's a match, because they are not comfortable being themselves and to set boundaries, willing to show you what they're like when they're angry, or before you're willing to show someone what you're like when you're angry. That is a waste of your time, and it's a waste of their time. So what we do inside the Mindful Dating program is we work on being self-led so that you can let go of those people-pleasing parts, let go of your armor, stop faking nice, stop pretending to be somebody you're not, and be self-led. Lead from that place inside you that's calm, creative, confident, connected, courageous, clear about who you are and what you want. And inside the Mindful Dating Intensive, my clients start by, first of all, developing a super highway to self-energy. It's the first thing that we work on is really accessing self-energy, which gives you like the number one tool for navigating tricky parts is just get out of it. Just get away from it a little bit. Just pull back from, like if you have an armored up part, pull back from it a little bit, reassure it, go back to your date. If you have a part that's people pleasing and you notice it, oh, it's okay if we make this person angry. It's fine if we piss this guy off. Who cares? There will be another one. So you can, we're just going to say we don't like sushi, and then we're not going to go out to a sushi restaurant. That's what we're going to do tonight. And that's wonderful. So my clients learn how to access self-energy. They learn how to navigate their tricky parts. They get a real handle on that. They do this beautiful clarity work. They learn who they are, what they're about, and what they really want out of life. And all of that's great. It's all wonderful. But there's a special sauce involved in this whole thing. There's a special sauce, and the special sauce is 100% the group process. It is because of the group itself, because of the women in the group, the other participants, that the group has the power it has. Because it's one thing to watch a video about self-leadership. It's one thing to practice it privately in a one-on-one session with your coach, who you already know, love, and trust. But it's a very different thing to be in a group of people where you're feeling a little bit vulnerable and maybe want to be guarded, and instead practice letting down your armor and be vulnerable in a way that feels comfortable with people that you're just barely getting to know inside this group. It's a great opportunity to be authentic, to practice nonviolent communication, compassionate communication, and set boundaries with grace and integrity. It's an amazing place to demonstrate courage, to reveal inside the setting what it is you're looking for from a partner, from a lover, from a spouse, what your dating goals are, what you're aiming for, what you're struggling with. And that was my experience when I hired a dating coach. I was super disappointed that I had to do this in a group. I was not happy about it. I was really annoyed. I thought it would be so much better if I could just talk to her about this in private. I am a super private person. Believe it or not, I know I'm on Facebook a lot, sharing a lot of stuff, but I'm mostly a super private person, and I was way more private back then. I didn't want to share my favorite flavor of ice cream. So I was a really, really private person. But in the group, I had to practice being vulnerable a little bit in order to get any coaching. And inside my mindful dating group, the group members practice being vulnerable. They'll share, oh, I'm getting hijacked by a part, or I went on a date and I noticed that I had a part come up, and this part was coming up before I even went on the date. They will share some of those vulnerabilities, which gives them an opportunity to take off their armor around people they're just barely getting to know, which is great practice for going out on a date and being able to express yourself very articulately and clearly to somebody that you're just getting to know, because you don't want to wait 6 months before you reveal the deal breakers or the potential deal breakers, because you don't want to get attached to somebody and then find out that actually they don't care. They can't love you if you're bisexual. If you identify as queer, they actually want nothing to do with you. That's super painful 6 months later. So you have to be able to talk about being queer or being bi on the first date. And that's my example. That's from my life. But for other people, it's other things. They have other things they need to feel out and get people to know about and get people on the same page with. A big one of those things is wanting to get married and have kids. A lot of women that I work with either do want to get married and have kids, or specifically do not want children. And like, well, I don't want to talk about that, until we really know if we like each other. I'm like, talk about it up front. And that's, so that's the other thing, is really getting courageous enough to own your preferences and your life choices in that group. And two things happen when women share at that level inside the group. And these two things make that secret sauce even more powerful. Not only is an opportunity for you to be self-led, it's an opportunity for you to receive support for being self-led, because the reason that you have all those parts, those people-pleasing parts, the parts that are armored up, the parts that are self-conscious, the parts that are self-critical, is because you have past experiences of other people hurting you. That's 100% why you have that part. inside the group, you take a risk, you reveal some things, you show your true colors, and you get support, you get love, you get celebration, you become seen, and you become seen in your most beautiful way. Like, you're not seen by people who are then going to criticize you. You're seen by people who are going to celebrate you for being you, celebrate you for knowing what you want. I am going to hang tight here for a second. My dogs are barking a bit. Okay, I think they've stopped. I do turn this into a podcast afterwards, so I want to be sure that we can make this podcast not have dogs barking in the background. Okay. So when you have this experience, when the women share inside my group, when they share, hey, I don't want to have kids. I am, 40 years old. I know that I'm supposed to want to have kids, but I really don't. This isn't important to me. Or I am 40 and I want to have kids and I only have a few years left of fertility, so I really want to get on that. You get support. It's a very supportive group of women who are also working towards being self-led, also working towards self-acceptance, also, just generally speaking, because they're in a mindful dating group and they're working on being led from an authentic place, tend to be authentic people who are very caring and compassionate and very in touch with self-energy. So what happens is my clients inside that space have their full selves embraced by other group members. And that's hugely important. But a second thing also happens, and that is this: they learn they're not alone. They learn they're not the only one who made it to 40 and doesn't, really didn't learn how to stand up for yourself in a dating situation. They're not the only one who's widowed. They're not the only one who's divorced. They're not the only one who had a child on their own through in vitro. They're not the only one who doesn't ever want to have children. They're not the only one. That's what they learn. They're not alone. They're not the only one who had a crappy childhood that they're still dealing with after all these years. They're not the only one that had an abusive relationship, and they're not the only one that hasn't been able to open their heart since and walks around armored up. They're not the only one that didn't know how to do this. There's a whole group of people that are learning alongside you, learning with you, and at some point learning from you. And that makes the group so much more powerful. And it's the kind of power where what happened back in August, one day, I think it was August, may have been July, but a couple months ago, a month or two ago, this amazing thing happened. Oh, I guess it's still August technically, but it was either the beginning of this month or sometime last month. One client was ending. She was on week 12, and she was talking about the remarkable transformation that she had inside the program, that she went from being someone who experienced a lot of men being completely inappropriate with her and horrible to her on first dates, to now none of that happens. And she's actually meeting really lovely people that she likes, even if they're not a good match for her. The second person was someone who was halfway through the program and said, wow, it's starting to feel easy. I feel like I'm getting more self-led. I definitely know I have some parts, but it's a lot easier to get back to self-energy now. And the third person was someone who started group, was at the first time. And she said at the end of her first day, if this hour and a half was all there was, it would be enough, because I learned so much from everybody else in the group. And now that I think about it, that might have been a little more than a month ago. But at any rate, it wasn't all that long ago that this happened all on one day. And it happens because inside that group, there's so much love, so much support, and so much kindness, compassion. People are bringing self-energy, which also, just as a caveat, and this was not in my notes to talk about, because there are other women who are making it their goals to be self-led, when you might be working with a difficult part, say you're working with your self-conscious part that doesn't feel comfortable setting a boundary on a first date. There are so many women there whose goal is to be more self-led, that we, the whole group, is holding self-energy for you while you and I are working with that self-conscious part. It's beautiful. It's an amazing experience. And that is the secret sauce. Yes, it was a great curriculum. It definitely, I think I have someone who's doing the curriculum without actually being able to attend the group, and she's getting a lot out of it. She's doing her homework. I'm giving her feedback. She's definitely growing. And I know that if she were able to come to the group and do that practice, she would get that much more out of it. It's such a powerful experience to be in a group that can support you in that way. So that's my secret sauce, and that's my true confession. This isn't really all about me. It's about the beautiful, amazing, intelligent, compassionate women that collect themselves together in this process. I hope this has been helpful for you to hear about. Please pop any comments into the comments below. If you're curious about this and you really want to explore whether or not this group could be a good experience for you, and you're just like, hey, I might like a group that's really supportive while I'm going through this dating challenge, please use the link right above. Let's set up a clarity call and let's see if this is a good fit for you. Take care. Bye.